Welcome back to another Secrets of the Pros, and we were talking about how to edit in Studio One for the easy mix. This thing is taking over, man. So we're gonna be showing you how you can do some quick edits you can do faster than in Logic Pro Tools. Studio One is very user friendly, and I encourage you guys to get a copy. You can link me. I can make one available to you. I can, sell it to you. Hit me up on YouTube. Hit me up on Pristine Production. There's my logo right there. But let's jump right into it, right? So you guys know how to mix and build rhythms in it. I'm gonna show you something, by the way. Let me quickly go to that page. There is a plugin that is called Bridgewise from DDF, and what this does, this takes your 32-bit plugins, the old one like the M1 Korg or the Nexus, and it scans them and it bridges and it converts it into a 64-bit. How does that work? You simply right-click as run as administrator. This thing comes up here, and you go on scan, and you can set the folder. For example, mine is already in C program files, VST Korg, and that's where I put my plugins there, the old one, the M1 and the Nexus, and it comes up on the list, and you just click on the bridge button, and it's gonna bridge it. And how do you open it when it's done? When you go in your Studio One here, you're gonna go under DDMF. So for example, I install the Korg, right? So I go on Korg on here on instruments, and there it is, M1 DDMF. It's called DDMF because DDMF converted it, and which is this right here. There's a Korg M1, and I can play it. The same with the Nexus REFX DDMF. There it is, Nexus. I just drag it across and it loads. So but we're gonna deal with editing. So I lay down a track here. Here's your tools, by the way. You Studio One new beginners here. Similar to Pro Tools, you just click on this little bracket icon here so that all three of the items are always lined up. This is your quantize, input quantize, so you make sure you turn that on whenever you're building rhythms, and that gives you automatic note correction, any faulty playing. Here is the snap icon. If I can press the letter N for shortcut, it turns it on and off, so it snaps. If I'm dragging around something, it snaps directly. And this is your quantize, where you can pick if you want to record in quarter, 8 note, 16 note. Time base, which you can hit on beats and bars. If you want to manually quantize, like let's say this organ part here, right? I'm gonna loop this. I'm gonna go ahead and let me go ahead and see if I can find my markers. There it is over here. I'm just gonna drag the marker here, and I'm gonna loop this organ part I have right here. This is how easy you can do this stuff, and it works better to me than Pro Tools. I'm gonna click on this icon right down here that says loop active. I'm gonna play the organ here. Let me, for the fun of it, let's put a little bit of reverb. And it's gonna loop from that side to that side flawlessly, right? Now, let's say I want to I want to quantize it. I'm gonna click on this Q button here, and let's say I want to turn that performance into a 8 note. I'm gonna either highlight all of this or one part. I'm gonna click here. I'm gonna click on the 8th note, and I'm gonna hit the apply button right here, and it's gonna change that performance. Let's play it back. And if I want to do it, put it back where it was, I can go here and go on the 16th note. Click on this icon, click on this block of the MIDI note here. Let me extend this a little bit more. Hit apply, and it tightens it up. If I want to add a swing to it, I can just adjust the slider here. So let's go about, let's say about 50%. It's gonna add a slight swing to the notations. I'm gonna hit apply to quantize it again, and I'm gonna play the organ back. It gives a slight swing to it. I don't know if you can make out the difference there. A little bit less tighter. So I'm gonna put a quick drum beat here using signature 2 from Certified here. Let's see how quick I can move here. I'm going to click record here. I'm going to leave this in loop here. So let's go ahead. So I'm going to play just to that part there, right? Because I want to loop it. So I'm going to play it back. And I'm fairly happy with that. I'm going to drag the tail a little bit here so it tights in. I'm going to hit the letter D, and it's going to duplicate that performance there. If I want to also bring it, I could either hold Alt and drag it, and there I can bring it there. I can duplicate it again. So it starts right from there, right? Let's say I want to add some hi-hats to it. So I already have this instrument loaded here. I can go on track. I can go to add tracks. And here's the type. I can go down to instrument. I'm going to go a new instrument here. So this is going to control. This is going to add just the MIDI performance for the hi-hats rather than recording everything right in here. So I'm going to go right here the way it says none. And I'm going to select certified model. And here I can play the hi-hat. So I'm going to play this back here. I'm going to hit the letter C for my metronome. I'm going to hit the space bar. I'm going to put in the hi-hats, right? So I'm going to just leave this part right here. And I'm going to drag it over this side. Let's play it back. I'm going to press the letter D to duplicate it. Here I'm duplicating the MIDI notes here. Now let's say we want to do some MIDI editing, right? Let's say we want to affect the way how we play the hi-hats for just this part right here. So I'm going to double click on the MIDI note here, and you might see this window pop up. I will encourage you to click on this arrow here first if you want to make it larger, and then click right here, and there you have the screen, right? So here is the block for the MIDI notes. Let's say I want to do some step recording, right? So here are the switches right here. Here is their select tool, pitch, quantize, everything's right up here. So I'm gonna hit on this little icon here that says step record. And here you have, you can enable the quantization notes here. So let's say, by the way, the letter Q is a shortcut to hit quantize. So let's say I want to hit right after this note here. I want to add, let's say, a triplet note. I click on the cursor where I want to do it, and I hit the keyboard. And I'm going to play this part back here. Let's add another note right, let's say right about there. Let's play it back. And that is where I can, I can control Z if I want to take that off. I can select another note here. I'm going to go right about here. Maybe catch it right from here. I'm going to add in some more random notes here. You can see the quantization is giving you a little bit more triplet 30-second note here. So let's play it back. And that sounds pretty cool, right? Let's play it back. And I can affect the velocity of these notes here. If I can take it down, if I wanted to sound it more softer. And let's come out of that for a little bit. If I wanted to quantize a note, remember I can add an 18 note and quantize the parts, or you can come out of it and quantize it yourself. So let's say I have this part here. You want to do the same thing to these others, So what you can do is you can just click on it. You can get rid of these here. And just hit duplicate here, and or you can randomize it, right? You can let's bring in back the notes here. Maybe you can delete this one here. I click on this and hold Alt and drag. And there we have a randomization here. So this MIDI track here is controlling us the hi-hat performance. If I mute it here, it mutes. Same thing for the drum. Let's say this is the drums here. I can double click here on the MIDI node here. All the red ones are the kick drum. All the yellow ones are the snares. So let's say I wanted to add a little bit of notation here on, let's say that's the snare here. I'm going to hit on my step record button here again. And I'm going to hit a little bit of some of the notes here. I'm going to play it back. Let's go a little bit over here. Let's play it back. So you get the idea. I can click on a note, hit delete, take that out. And that's how you can edit these stuff. All right. Other stuff you might say you want to, let's say I want to turn these MIDI files into a WAV file. I can highlight all of them. I can right click and I can go down to mix down selection. Studio One is going to bounce it down to WAV and disable the original instrument. If I wanted to play it, I can unmute it by right click and go to unmute. If I go on events and go on unmute events, I can bring the MIDI back in. Or I can hold simply hold shift and press M for mute. That's a shortcut here. So this is the organ bounce down to wave here. Right, so let's send in back through the reverb. Now let's say I wanted to chop up this audio file, right? What I can do, if I wanted to do a fade, I'll just go to the corner here. Remember, make sure all these are highlighted, and I'm just gonna drag, and I can affect the fade here. You know, if I go to the middle here, I can make it a little bit more complex. I can push it up, push it down, you know, and that kind of stuff. You know, you can also do crossfade. You can pardon. I don't know what's going on with my screen, but yeah, you can do crossfade. If I double click, I hover the cursor here, it turns a plus sign. Remember, it's on snap mode. I double click, it chops it automatically. I go here, double click, it chops it, right? And I can always, if I hit the letter X, it crossfades. It creates a crossfade. Let's zoom in here. And there's a crossfade. I can adjust how I want it to crossfade. So it's very easy, very easier than a Pro Tools, right? Also, let's say I wanted to, let's say this was an audio sample of sound effects. I can double click at two of these sides and chop it up and take that part and sample it. How easy for it to sample? You just go ahead and right click. You go on you go on audio here and you go to send to sample one, and here you have a sample one, takes it, makes a new track, and you can create an organ instrument from the sound of that sample there. Very cool, huh? And I check this out. Let's say if you don't want to right click and do the mix down thing, you can create a new track, audio. I'm going to make it be a stereo, and this is a track right here. I'm going to take my drums and I just drag it down on that track, and automatically Studio One bounces it down to an audio file. So I have the drums now as an audio file. And check this out, you can also quantize the audio file. So if I press I'm going to mute the drums and I go on Q, I hit the 8th note, I hit apply, it quantizes the audio. Let's try a different quantizer. Let's try a 32nd note here and see what it does. And this also helps you, especially if you're doing live instruments here. I'm trying some other ones here, but I'm not okay. I'm getting a different result. Let's check it out. But there you can hear the different quantization here. I'm gonna try an 8 note here, maybe a quarter note here. Let's see what the quarter note does. So you can do a lot of things with Studio One, right? And it's fairly simple and easy. Let's say this was an audio track. You wanted to bring up Melodyne. Just right click on it, go to audio, and you go to edit with Melodyne. And Studio One launches Melodyne, and you have that to edit as well. If you wanted to reverse the track, you can go on audio, and here are the menu which you can do it here. You can go reverse audio, and we're going to reverse it. You know, so these are the simple edits you do in everyday mixing, and it's really really cool. I can go back and reverse it back again. So you know, this is the basic. Just wanted to show you guys what you can do in a Studio One. If you wanted to slow down a performance as well, there is what you call the bend tool, audio bend. If I click on it and let's turn on the eyeball, I can select. I'm going to click on this part right here that says bend tool. I can select the parts I want to slow down, right? I can click here, and I can click here, and I can click here, and I can drag a little bit over here, and this is going to like speed up the performance. If I click here and drag it back, let's say I can slow it down. So I can turn off the little marker there, turn it off so I can see my original file. You know, so fairly easy, guys. So hit me up if you want to learn more tutorials about Studio One, how to do simple things. You know, Studio One is here, man. We have two windows. We have the mix window, and we have the edit window, and I believe the shortcut for that is F3. If I press F3, it brings out mix. I press it again, it goes back to the edit window, right? So fairly easy, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Support our Pristine Productions here, and